So there's a recent video posted by Josh Strife Hayes, and I feel like this is always something interesting. Whenever the niche game of Realm of the Mad God gets a viewer base by like someone with a big following, a lot of Realm YouTubers don't really have this many subscribers. While you can say that there was a lot of things that he got wrong. In fact, he posted two videos. I originally wanted to make a reaction to the first one, and I realized I'm just really bad at reacting to videos, so I decided to just talk about it, and I hope he doesn't mind that I'm putting footage of his video in the background. But I feel like the biggest issue that was seen when he made these videos wasn't whether Realm was a bad game or not, or even if it was dying, because let's be honest, that's something that constantly is getting brought up. But I feel like it's something that people don't really realize, which is just, let's be honest, the new game for players fucking sucks. I experienced it firsthand because I feel like I was stuck in a new game era for a long time. I feel like I'm good at Realm of the Mad God now, but that was due to a lot of help from my friends and getting equipment from players. And that's the thing, I'd say the biggest problem with Realm is that the new game is really confusing and has kind of become forgotten about, which makes it hard for new players to get back in. So I just wanted to start off with a few things. So the first thing to mention is the tutorial. It does its job, it's pretty simple, but there's something that it just doesn't cover. It explains the basic controls, it explains how to fight. But Realm of the Mad God is like a sandbox game, which means that it can be confusing for people going in from an MMO view where they expect quests and storyline, as mentioned by Josh Strife. And one thing that he also made me realize that I guess not a lot of people realize because they're veteran players, and that's that you have a bunch of endgame mechanics that you just either learn from friends, or you never learn at all, or you learn from trial and error, which can be confusing or cause people to give up. And then the next big thing, it was one of the elephants in the room, was that the Nexus is really shitty. I've heard a lot of people talking about how the Realm is shitty and that needs a rework, but I'd say compared to the Nexus, you can see that there's a lot of problems. You have the monetization aspect, which I guess you need money to make the game run, but you don't want to make players immediately see monetization because I guess it makes the game seem illegitimate and scummy, When I mentioned in my React video that it kind of seems like a mobile game where you get in and you're instantly shown a bunch of shit for money, expecting you to pay for the game before you even play it. So I feel like it would be a better idea to make all things shown in the Nexus fame only, especially the beginner pack, and especially whenever a new fame box is released during an event and stuff. It goes back to what I was saying with the tutorial not explaining everything, where players go in and hopefully they'll find their way to the realm, but other than that, they'll spend a lot of time walking around the Nexus and not really seeing it as an important thing when it should be more important than it is. You have your access to the vault, you have your access to the daily quests, you have your access to the Tinkerer, and those are all kind of hidden. But what isn't hidden is the shop and the fucking gold. It's all about the money, baby. But they're kind of going in a good direction. They have the shop where it's all hidden behind tabs, and I guess even the Grand Bazaar. But like I said, a better thing would make it where all the things for fame is shown, maybe even making new items that was previously not for fame being worth fame, like keys. Obviously not endgame dungeons, but early game ones so they can have a better time practicing. It's good to bring back a lot of the old items that are sold for fame. That was back when the game was released. They had items for fame. Especially these nil drops. I'm looking at them at the screen right now. It's the dumbest shit ever to make them sell for gold, even when they reduce the price. They give each player a set amount of 40 gold, but it's just pocket change in the grand scheme of things. You can't buy anything. You also have important things like the Tinker and the daily quests, even the Forge and the Vault. I think those things should also be more accessible or more better explained, either included in the tutorial, and especially like in better view in the Nexus. It would be interesting to see the daily quest and the Tinker out in the Nexus rather than hidden in a dungeon. Other than that, you have the UI, which is a fucking annoying thing. It was annoying for me to watch the video and see his notifications open the whole time. But let's be honest, it doesn't tell you how to close it, or even if there's a way to close it. And later in the video, he even mentioned when being in a big group of people, not being able to see his own player and not being able to see the mouse and cursor. You have a lot of games where you start up and it makes you set the brightness. It would be cool if Realm allowed you or explained to you how to change opacity and how to turn off particle effects and turn off ally shooting. So that way you can perfectly cater your experience, because that's a big part of the game. And it's one of those things where you learn from playing the game long enough, like in the endgame players, where most, if not everyone, has the opacity low, but new players wouldn't realize that. Lastly, another aspect of the game is that it's easy to think that the early game is all that there is to Realm. And I feel like that's become even worse when you have less players playing, because you either see two people. You see one, which is new players, which let's be honest, those are a little bit more rare, or two, you see endgame players, and a new player doesn't realize how long it takes for them to get to that point. So this happened to me when I was stuck in early to mid game for a long time. I didn't have that many character slots. I didn't have any equipment slots in the vault. And that caused me to put all my equipment and items onto one character, hopefully get far, and then die and immediately go back to early game. And this can be frustrating. The permadeath can be fun when you actually have a lot of equipment and actually have that challenge. But most players will think that it's just getting to level 20 as soon as possible and trying to get equipment, when there's a lot of really interesting and fun things to do. Another problem this game has that I've noticed too, and he'll show the deaths on the screen. If you take a moment to pause the screen right now, there's some deaths by enemies he should be fighting, but I feel like a lot of these are deaths by enemies that are not in his skill level. These shouldn't be enemies that an unmaxed level 20 character, especially with shitty equipment, should be fighting. And I feel like that's due to the game's sandbox style of gameplay, and that's a nice thing, but oftentimes it just makes the game feel frustrating because you ultimately become the guidance of what you should fight. And a lot of these enemies don't do a good job of telling you how dangerous they are until it's too late and you've died. This was a problem even when the game was new, but I feel like it's gotten worse with how many endgame content has been added. It would be nice if they added more warnings or made the warnings more apparent than just letting you go into it and die. They need to make the tutorial explain more than just the basic gameplay. It should explain the UI, and they should have either quests or better explanations of the journal rather than just making you read a huge fucking paragraph. That would be nice ways of adding new quests while also adding new ways to gain equipment or adding new NPCs for players. And even in Josh Strife's case, it would be a cool way to introduce story to the game. After that, it'll be nice to have more guidance for the players, so that way they can know when something's too dangerous or when they should go into some dungeons and not. Maybe like quests to encourage them to max out dex and speed first, since that's typically what most guides say. After that, it would be good if they had more natural progression for the player. The only progression you have when you're doing early game is leveling up from 1 to 20. Let's be honest, the typical player isn't going to max their first character before they've leveled up all the characters to level 20. And I think that's understandable. It'll be interesting to make characters level up faster or even gain extra stats, so that way they don't have to use as many potions to max their characters, like as they get stars for their characters. Just in case like a player that doesn't know to store potions or store equipment is still able to have an easier time leveling up characters than one that just started. It would be good to have an in-game discussion, or even something like voice chat, because that's something that's already in a lot of MMOs. It's normal to talk to people without having to use the chat. That would also make it more easy to cooperate with people when doing endgame dungeons. Not a lot of new players will know about Discord, so it'd be cool to have players already able to talk to each other without needing to use an external source. I feel like Josh Strife thought he was very wrong in making the video, but it's crazy that he got it so right, and that he suffered from only experiencing the game in early game. Therefore, it seemed like he didn't really understand what he was talking about. But I feel like in his second video, he really understood what was wrong with the game. And it kind of does show why it's important for Deca to make more quality of life updates and do more updates working on player retention and bringing in new players, rather than only focusing on endgame. So that way we can have a new life. Because let's be honest, it's really nice to see new players and interact with them and not only teach them how to play, but have new players to bring life to the realms. Because of this, I'm curious about making a new player experience video. Not one where I act like a new player, but one where I try to force myself to experience what it's like to be a new player and really focus on all of the equipment and guides that they give to new players to see how much and how far someone can go without needing to rely on external sources or people or guides online to tell them how to play. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I feel like I talked a while, but I'd still be interested in hearing your feedback and what you think would be good for new players and increasing player retention. Have a nice day.